Amy Talkington.
Hey, Mike.
Hi, good morning. How are you doing? Oh, good afternoon. I'm good, thank you. First question is, in one word, how would you sum up Valley Girl?
Joyful.
Okay. And my next question is, what drew you to write a remake to the 1983 movie Valley Girl?
Well, when I first heard about it, they had already. What I heard is that MGM was planning to do a remake of the classic as a musical using all 80s pop songs, and I was a huge fan of the original, and I felt like doing this very different take on it. I felt like it kind of gave me permission to retell the story in a different way, but still honor the original story. So, and I also was drawn to it because I very much identify with Julie's experience. I very much identify with Julie's experience in the original, and then even made it sort of more, added some more layers of my own experience into the remake. In what I'm talking about, people ask me if I'm from LA. I'm actually not, but I grew up in Dallas, and there's a perfect sort of parallel in Dallas. I was, being in sort of bland, horrible 80s North Dallas, and I discovered this, bland and horrible is not the Valley. The Valley is actually pop and fun, and North Dallas was that too. North Dallas in the 80s was very shiny. Bland and horrible is not the right word to use, but sort of superficial and poppy and materialistic is actually the more specific way to describe it. And I discovered an art scene in a neighborhood in Dallas called Deep Ellum, where there was a whole music scene exploding, and art and experimental theater, and so I felt like I had a similar sort of awakening to Julie, and it wasn't just sort of my own love story that I found there, but I also found myself as an artist. And was turned on to art and creativity in a way I hadn't been before. And so that's something I really wanted to layer into the story.
Okay. And you answered my third question, because it was it already decided that the film will be a musical before you wrote the first draft? But obviously you said they decided it for you? Or?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That was the whole idea. I mean, I think everyone involved really loves the original. And I don't think anybody said, "Oh, we got this thing, and let's remake it because it's a good title." It really came from a very pure place for me. I can say for sure for the producer Matt Smith, of loving the story that was there, loving the world that she created, and the fact that this is such a different take on it. Really felt like hopefully we could honor the original in the remake.
Okay, and my next question is, did you do any research while you were writing Valley Girl?
Oh my gosh, yes, tons of research, tons and tons. I lived through this period. I was younger. I was not a teenager. I was a teenager. I was their age later in the 80s, so I wanted to I lived through the early 80s, but I was a little bit younger, so I wanted to really just refresh myself on everything that was going on in the world, in the country, and specifically in the Valley and in Los Angeles. So, I mean, I got on chat rooms. I mean, believe it or not, there is a Facebook group dedicated to remembering and cherishing the Galleria.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The original, yes, there literally is. So I was, and it was, what a great way to see what the highlights of the mall were, not seeing it in a movie, but hearing it from the people who were there, because I wasn't at that Galleria. We had our own Galleria in Dallas, so I had a sense of what it was like, but I wanted those specific details. And then the punk world, the music world, that's something that's an interest of mine, and I had actually visited an exhibit in Santa Monica some years ago that had sort of all these wonderful relics of that time in Los Angeles, and I had bought the book, so I had this wonderful resource of that time. But I did tons of work, listening to the music, watching some documentaries. Also, a friend of mine had done a book had photographed malls in the late 80s and 90s and was just publishing those pictures. So I had those pictures as reference. So I did tons of research. And what I like to do when I'm doing a period piece is I kind of create, and I do this actually when it's not a period piece, but especially when it's a period piece, create a cheat sheet for each character. I remember I had a list. I was like, these are the things. I mean, I had a Julie sheet. It's like, these are the things she would have been obsessed with. These are the things she would have hated, And it's everything from like an ad slogan that was super popular that people were constantly saying at the time to like her fashion, her music. And I did the same for Randy, but I also had sort of cheat sheets for like, this is sort of what the Valley Girls were into, and this is sort of what Randy's crew would be thinking about and talking about and would have experienced earlier this year.
Okay, so my next one is what is the one thing you missed about the 80s, and what is the one thing you do not miss about 80s?
Let's see. What do I miss about the 80s? I miss being a teenager. I loved being a teenager. I mean, it was horrible, but it was also wonderful looking back. I loved, one of my favorite sequences in the movie is when Julie is arriving in Hollywood and arriving at that punk club for the first time and having her mind blown by there's this bigger world out there, there's this edge out there that she wasn't aware of, that there's this creative scene, and I miss those experiences, that you have as a teenager. I also miss the plastic shoes, handbags. I had all kinds of plastic stuff, and the hair was super fun. What I don't miss, is the deep materialism, which I think, obviously, Valley Girls were materialistic, no doubt. But Dallas, the TV show Dallas was kind of a sort of archetypal temple of materialism.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it's still have that, but I just think of that as such a big part of the 80s.
Do you do not see a lot of movie musicals as often in the past, like we see in the past, like right now? Do you know why that is? Like why there's not a lot of movie musicals today?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think they feel. I'm trying to think about the answer to that. I haven't really thought about it. I think they might have felt this. I don't really know. My guess is that they feel a little riskier. I mean, look, what kinds of movies do we see now? Mostly, big superhero movies.
Yeah.
I think they feel a little riskier. I think when they fall flat, they can really fall flat. I think they might feel dated. They can easily feel dated. I think. I think generally they just feel a little riskier for a studio to pull off. But look, La La Land. I mean, we responded. That studio took a risk on it, and it really landed with people. And I hope right now, with what's going on with the pandemic, with everybody being cooped up in their homes, I hope that the spirit and joyfulness, to circle back to that word, of this movie and the nostalgia, I hope it will. I hope it's landing. It feels to me like it's landing at a really good time to hopefully bring some joy into people's living rooms and some dancing and some music and some memories. So I hope that it lands and plays with audiences. I've seen it with some audiences, and I've seen people really enjoy it. And I feel like right now, this is what I need. I need levity.
Okay, so my next question is, what is your favorite scene or musical moment from the movie?
Oh, there's a lot. I mean,
which one sticks out to you, like right now?
It's hard to pick. When I think the moment that really speaks to me is when Julie's arriving in Hollywood. It's a sequence I remember from the original, and what's amazing is that Rachel actually used, so when they're arriving in Hollywood that first night when she's coming for the first time, the POV shots of Hollywood Boulevard are the actual shots from the original Valley Girl.
Oh, okay.
And but what I love that she did that. But what I love about the sequence is, to me, it encapsulates like that. That is the moment when her mind is being blown. And I see it on Jessica's face. There is a whole another world out there that is so much bigger and so much more textured and layered than what she's experienced in the Valley. And then she goes into the punk club, and I just remember having that experience myself. And I think it's an experience that it just cinematically really works for me and is really emotional and moving, and I hope that's part of the story that I feel like a lot of people can maybe connect to. Not that they went to Hollywood punk clubs, but I think everybody has had an experience, when they break away from the world that they grew up in and find that there is a larger world.
Okay, and my next question is, what was your experience working with the director of this movie, Valley Girl, Rachel?
Yeah, she was great. We had a great working experience. I think she came on about 8 months before we started shooting, and we worked on the script, sent it back and forth. She had tons of ideas. She brought so much to it. She really wanted to ground it emotionally as much as possible. She really interrogated every moment to wanting it to feel authentic and real. We looked at every number, every song to make sure it was the right choice, and she had some great ideas, and we made some shifts there. And then as she started to cast and get locations, we were updating the script based upon those choices. And then I was on set quite a bit. At that point, we weren't doing any writing on set, or not very much at all. But I was there just to experience it because it was such a joy to see it all come together. So I visited as much as I could.
Did you make a cameo in the film? If not, why didn't you?
Oh, that's great. I do.
Oh, okay.
But in an oblique kind of way. So they needed, the art department made a call for family photographs. People, if anybody had family photographs from the 80s, because the actors' family photographs aren't period. So, from childhood pictures. They needed childhood pictures to populate the house, Julie's house in particular. Mm-hmm. So I sent in a whole bunch of pictures of me as a girl with my family, and I had no idea if they were going to use any of them. And the day that I walked in, and that was actually, I think it was the first day of shooting. I walked onto the set, I walked into the living room, and there were pictures of me and my family everywhere. They had chosen me as a girl to be young Julie. Wow. And there's actually a shot. It's actually featured pretty heavily in the movie, because there's first a scene between mom and dad where a big picture of me is right behind them, and then there's the scene when Randy comes in. He's supposed to be meeting them for dinner, and he looks around and he sees all this perfect happy family mm-hmm. stuff, and the close-ups on those pictures, that most of them are me and my family.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, it was really cool.
And were you ever on set? If so, could you tell me your memorable moment?
Yes, I was on set a lot.
Okay, so which one?
Yeah. I mean, there were a lot of memorable moments. I'm trying to think. I mean, that was a memorable moment I just described, walking onto set and seeing all those pictures. But in terms of the shooting, I mean, the biggest number, is that opening mall number, I think, mm-hmm. In terms of musical, traditional, people singing and dancing, musical number. And it was pretty amazing to step into this mall that they had completely turned into, early 80s, and to watch that musical number come together with all those extras, which we had scripted, I had scripted, it's something, I worked on the script on and off for a number of years, and so to see that big number come to life, and not only, we had on set that day, because we were shooting, I think she was there that day. Yeah, she arrived that day. Deborah Foreman, who played Julie in the original, because she was going to be in a scene the next day. So she was on set when we were shooting that. So I was sitting there at the monitor next to Deborah Foreman, who played Julie in the original, and we were watching this huge dance number take place in this recreated 80s mall. So that was pretty amazing.
Wow. were you able to like conversate with the main cast like Chloe, Jessica Payton, Alicia Silverstone, or Judy, or Logan Paul, or any of the members? And if so, what was one interesting fact you learned about them? It could be any cast member.
Well, Josh is what I love learning about Josh and his band. Josh is in a band. I mean, I think he pulls off. He plays Randy.
Okay.
He pulls off those performance sequences so well because he's in a band. He plays guitar. He sings, and I loved learning about his band. And also, he makes art. He draws. He made us all paintings as end of shoot gifts, depicting kind of like a cartoonish sort of Valley Girl scene.
Okay.
I met Logan's parents. They were really nice. I'm trying to remember what we were talking about. I might have to get back to you on that one. I'm trying to think. I mean, I got to know Chloe a little. I got to know Ashley a little. I mean, I tried not to be I wasn't on set all the time at all, and I tried not to be intrusive, so I didn't get to know them all super well.
I know you've written a young adult novel before.
Uh-huh.
So are you planning on writing another one?
I might. I mean, I'm getting really good. I'm very busy in my film and TV career right now.
Okay.
And so it really, it was an incredible experience. It's so different than writing a script. And I loved writing it, and I loved putting it out into the world, and it's amazing because, you know, as a screenwriter, you're constantly rewriting and collaborating, and people are rewriting you, and then you're rewriting them, and this is just, with a book, you write it, and your editor gives you a few notes, and then it goes out into the world. So it's sort of a more pure form of writing. But I would like to write another book, but right now, I'm really busy in film and TV, and so it's not going to happen right now.
All right. So my next question is that I know you wrote the 8th episode of Little Fire Everywhere. Could you talk about your experience working on that project?
Yeah, it was an incredible experience working on that project. I had developed another show that didn't end up getting made with the showrunner, Liz Tigalar. And she put together an incredible room of writers. There were 8 of us total. 7 women, 1 man, extremely diverse room. And she curated, she picked people who all had like sort of deep personal connections with the source material, with the book that it's based on, for various different reasons. So we all came to it with strong feelings about different elements of the story and different characters, and we just had an incredible. It was one of those dream jobs where it was a great mix of people. I learned so much from working in that room with all of those writers, and then I was asked to work on set, so I was on set for the duration, or I was, work on the production for the duration of shooting. So it was an incredible experience, and it was pretty much, entirely led by women. All the executive producers are women, and 2 of our 3 directors were women, and so that was a really powerful experience.
All right, and my next question is that were you able to discuss with Kerry Washington or Reese Witherspoon about their characters?
I mean, the showrunner really is the one. Liz had the bigger character conversations with them. I had lots of one thing that I was sort of I wouldn't say in charge of, but deeply involved. One of the things I was deeply involved with in the production was the art. The Kerry Washington character, Kerry's an artist, and so Kerry was really into the art. Her being an artist, she took it super seriously. I think she took photography lessons. She met with a photography teacher, and so that we talked a lot about the art that her character made, and went back and forth on. We had an artist making the work for us, and back and forth with ideas on what her artwork should be. That was really cool.
Okay, And my next question is that did you watch the 92nd Oscars award, and what did you like and what didn't you like about the event?
I didn't watch it.
Okay.
I don't even know what it is. What have I missed?
The Oscars this year?
Whose speech though?
Well, Parasite won Best Pictures. Yeah.
I thought you said the 92nd. When you said 92nd, I thought you meant 90 like there was some 90-second long. Like,
no.
1.5 minute Oscar thing. Oh my God,
no,
sorry.
The
I
Oscars.
must have sounded crazy. Yes, I watched the 90. Sorry, I thought it was some Oscar mini thing I had missed. Yes, I watched the Oscars.
Okay. So what did you like and what didn't you like about the event?
Oh, I wish I could talk about the Oscars where the Moonlight La La Land thing happened. That was so crazy.
Oh, you can talk about that.
Oh, that was such a triumphant moment. I mean, I love La La Land, obviously, but I loved Moonlight even more than La La Land, and it felt like such a triumph that movie won, and that moment was just so crazy dramatic. I've never seen anything quite as dramatic on live TV, I don't think, and it was very joyous. Yes, this year's Oscar, I'm trying to think. Oh, I know what was an exciting moment during the Oscars this year. Mm-hmm. They aired an ad for Little Fires Everywhere. That was our first television spot. Okay. I'm like, I know there was something exciting about this year's Oscars. Oh, two things. That was our first television, I believe that was our first television spot, a little teaser for Little Fires Everywhere. So that was thrilling. And the second thing that was thrilling was Renee Zellweger is an old acquaintance/friend. My brother directed a movie that was her first starring role. So she had invited him to the premiere of Judy, so we were at the premiere, and I thought she did such an amazing performance, and it was a thrill to see her win her Oscar. Yeah.
Oh, okay, awesome. And
those are better. Those are better answers. Forget about Moonlight and La La Land.
Okay. And my next question is, if a self-published author is seeking a screenwriter or director, how would one get to you to read his or her story to see if it will make a compelling movie?
Well, I mean, me personally, I'm pretty accessible, online. I have a website with a contact. I have Instagram. I have Twitter. My time is extra. I can't say I can't say I necessarily read an unsolicited. I mean, I think actually it's probably not even smart to read unsolicited material that comes in, but just because for legal reasons, Mm-hmm. It's really. I mean, I think the way to get it into the hands of a screenwriter or creator is really, it's got to get some traction, and if it gets some views or whatever the medium is, if it just gets some traction, then that's going to get the attention of an agent who might represent it and then take it to creators. Okay. I think the agent's kind of the key, because I think just sending material, I think most people would probably reply the way I would. I would probably reply, but I would probably say that it would have to probably come through an agent. So I think just making the work as good as it can be, and trying to get people to see it, so that you can show the interest in the material to an agent, and then eventually, a screenwriter or TV creator.
Okay. Have you ever considered adapting any short story, novella, article, novel for a feature film? If so, which one?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've adapted a bunch of, Little Fires Everywhere was a novel.
Yeah.
I've adapted, the first script I ever wrote, it didn't get made. I've written tons of screenplays that have not gotten made or are in process still. So I've adapted a lot of things that haven't made it to the screen yet. But the first job I ever got was adapting a Rolling Stone article. Since then, I've adapted. I'm adapting a book, I mean, I've probably adapted 4 or 5 books, but again, they're all in various stages of development still. But I love working with source material. I don't think I've ever adapted a short story. Books, articles. I did a draft of Sabrina, the Teenage Witch, when they were going to remake it as a feature before it turned into the TV show. So working with that sort of underlying comic and concept. So I've adapted. Oh, and I've adapted. I did something for Mattel based on one of their properties of dolls, and then it had some. So I've adapted from all different kinds of media.
Okay. All right. We've come to my last question. So it is with the theaters shutting down and in streaming service going up due to this current lockdown. Do you think the movie industry would experience a lasting change of a sort, or do you think things will go back to normal?
I mean, I can't help but think it's going to have a lasting effect. I hope that movie theaters and movies in theaters will survive, but I think it will be even more event-oriented, and that anything smaller ends up streaming. I mean, it kind of feels like we were headed in that direction, but it has hastened the change. And I'm also concerned about how movies are going to be made just anytime in the near future, how productions are going to proceed. I'm curious to see how people are going to try to put together sets. So we'll see. I don't really know, but I do think there will be some lasting changes. Certainly in the distribution. The production side will probably get back to normal when it can. I can't see that changing a lot.
Right. So thank you very much for taking your time off, to talk to me about the movie. I really enjoyed it. It was a great experience, and I just want to thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.